morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Professor Cash, for that presentation. I see among your own achievements that you're an advisor to the President on community integration. Good luck to you, sir. You are obviously a household name. I am just a household name in my own household. I've been trying to train the cat to understand who I am, but I'm not succeeding. But I'm very honored to be here. And I'm particularly grateful to Professor Suat for having made such enormous efforts to get me here. Now, Professor Suat said, I will get some answers, I'm the expert. No, I'm not. What I hope at the end of today, that you will be more ignorant, but at a higher level, and that you will share with me some of the concerns that globalization is raising in our lives. You will remember a man called Marx. I don't mean Karl Marx, you know, that we all know about him, but Grouchy Marx, Groucho Marx, a comedian who said, I will never belong to any society, any club, any association that will have me as a member. And I'm delighted that I don't belong to anything because no one will have me. So, my fear, and what my talk is about today, is that globalization is crushing the individuals. And this is what I would like to share with you. First, we start with an increasing size in the population of the world. To me, one of the great challenges is that we do not recognize that, for example, in many parts of the world, population is actually increasing because the rights of women to decide on the choices, on the sizes of their family is being denied to them through lack of rights of the woman. Now that is where I would start, with some feeling that justice needs to be put into action. That leads to, obviously, more food being wanted and demanded in the world at a time when, in fact, global climate change is making it impossible to grow more food. You know it in Egypt. We know it all across Africa. Land is disappearing. Water is disappearing. And where is the food going to come from? So the result is global inequality is growing. Now we have all benefited from globalization. You all have telephones. Most of you actually know how to use it. I've got a telephone, I don't know how to use it, but it's an issue of generations. At least 400 million people in China who were poor 25 years ago no longer are so poor. We have benefited. We have got cheaper cars, better travel facilities, we could communicate with one another much more easily. Everybody in the world who wants good quality cotton products knows that they've got to come from Egypt. You are benefiting from globalization. But here also a note of warning. You are people who deal with individuals who have issues and problems that need to be met at their level, not at some mythical, absurd global level. And unfortunately, too much concentration is paid at the global issues and not at the human issues. And it leads to a dichotomy, a total division between the different members of our society. I'm an economist, not a doctor. Economists are miserable people. Deal in numbers. You deal in people. Our societies are fracturing. They're breaking apart because we are losing the sense of responsibility. You see, in a globalized world, we need a better balance between the individual, the corporation, and the state. And those lines, to me, seem to be disappearing. And it's all frightening. So, we have some issues that have bothered us, have concerned us for the best part of the last 50 years. As Professor Okasha very kindly referred to, I was one of the 4 people who were awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in '85 because of our fight for a slightly more sane approach towards nuclear weapons. Not the mad doctrine, mutually assured doctrine that had been introduced by some wonderful chap called Henry Kissinger. No, but a more decent relationship. Yes, we can kill one another. The whole of mankind can obliterate itself. Thank you. And the situation has not improved in the last 50 years. There are more madmen who have access to nuclear weapons now than there were ever before. Some we know, some we don't know. Now, we know global criminality is increasing. And we also know that it is less and less controlled because we no longer have the tools because our governments have weakened over the years. We are being pushed to buy more and more, and in a world that is finite, what is the result? We are destroying the world in which we live. And it is inevitable. Don't believe those who say, yes, let us be a bit more concerned about the planet and so on. It doesn't work, my friends, because the kind of economic system that we have splits and splits and splits ad infinitum. At the same time, unfortunately, we have destroyed the best institution that our world had created, a United Nations system in which people talk to one another. Some of the most powerful men, they're all men, in the world, are abandoning the idea of a mutual dialogue and moving towards confrontation. We have no global leadership at present that we respect. Where are the Mandelas of this day? We had an excellent man, I'm highly personally biased, in Obama. He has gone. He's no longer on the global scene. The sad reality to me is that globalization is not being served upon us by democratic liberal forces, but by people who we are unable to control. Look, my friends, there are the 20 largest IT companies in the world are composed of 11 Americans and 9 IT companies. They are the ones who are shaping our thinking. Facebook and all those wonderful groups like that, Google and the others, they are shaping the way in which we are allowed to talk to one another, to think about issues, to know what might be the truth. They're denying us the access to the right information. It's no longer a world in which we are able to decide what is happening to us. And this is leading us to the next phase, which is one of infinite competition. You are so divided. I'm too old to care, but you have got to fight and fight to stay where you are, because the world around you is becoming more competitive by the day. And it's going to get worse. because the computer revolution that started probably 1980, 1985 is not complete yet. It's carrying on. We are going to move towards artificial intelligence. And you know it, because I talked to quite a number of medical professionals, people in your own field, who said that there is so much research being carried out that the humans can no longer follow it. The machines are telling you what you should be reading because there is so much being produced. Now, slowly, slowly, we are losing our humanity. And this is the same time as growing religious extremism. It happens in all parts of the world. You have seen the way that the Buddhists are chucking out the Rohingyas in Burma. Is that traditional Buddhism? It's no different to me, as an outsider, to what's happening to the IS in Iraq and Syria, pushing out people who do not believe in their own way. And it's no more different to me than the majority Christian morality, all words that are contradictory in my way of thinking, who support extremism from other angles in the US. All these are leading to a growing sense of petty nationalism. We are withdrawing, not globalizing our thoughts, because we are overall in fear of one another, my friends. This is what's happening. We look at the newspapers, and I know that most of us are under the control of newspapers who are not really free. I'm not talking, I can't read Arabic, so I'm being totally innocent as to whether your papers are free or not free. I know that my papers in the UK or the papers that I read in the States are not free either, because they are plugging one form of commercialism or one form of nationalism at the other. But I do know that what is being promoted is not cooperation between us. It's conflagration, it's opposition, it's conflict. In a conflict that has enabled pretty right-wing people to emerge. Now, let me be absolutely clear. Morsi in India, Erdogan in Turkey, Orban in Hungary, and so on, they are not the ones who have caused the conflict. They are those who have benefited. They've been brought to power by the fears that have been engendered among us. And this leads not just to fear through nuclear arms race that could annihilate all of us from one day to the other, but just more and more arms race, small arms race. What is the result of global warming and of fear and of more conflict? Migration. 64 million people, according to UNHCR, are refugees or were refugees at the end of 2017, the last year for which complete data are available. 64 million people. That is roughly the population of the UK. It's a bit less than the population of Egypt. But this is enormous. The whole world is on a scale, is moving. And fear is dominating our lives. International capital volatility. By that, sorry to be technical, I've come back to being an economist for a second. The fact that enormous amounts of money have disappeared into tax havens. The Panama Papers, you will remember, if it has been published in Egypt. The Panama Papers showed how rich corporations have managed to avoid paying taxes which would help your work in Egypt to reach I can't remember the exact data, I made a note, that 90% of children in difficulties are not being helped. I bet you that in poor countries, it's 99.9% of children in difficulties are not being reached. I think you're agreeing, Professor Akash, I can't see you there.
This is the average of global world.
Exactly. So that in poor countries, it's going to be probably 99.9% of the children have not. Now why? Because international capital has been able to escape domestic taxation, out of which all of our children, all of our schools, all our medical services could have been helped. There is rampant corruption in the world. It is in all countries, my friends. And what power do we have to dominate, to control? We have none. So, this is a possible state of despair. Now, you remember Emil Durkheim. I hope that I dare say it's a name that you know far better than I do, reminding us that there are stages in life at which you can despair, totally despair. And that is a state of ennui. Are we there? Are we really accepting? Do we have to accept that it is all beyond our control, all beyond our capacity to interfere, to alter in any way? Well, let us not commit suicide, not collectively. So we need to take back control. And I would like to urge to you that you have a specific role to play. We must make change from within our own societies. We must move away from the concept that there might be extensive global growth forever and ever and ever. Only an economist or a madman can understand or can accept that there is infinite growth in a world of finite resources. We need more localized efforts. This is not a rejection of internationalism or cosmopolitanism. We gain from talking to one another, from one another's experience, as you, the chairman of the Egyptian Psychiatric Association, made earlier, the point that you made earlier. But we also have learned from internationalism and from internationalization that more education to all members of our community is the way to proceed. But we also need to know the limitations that our own professions force. It is not more pills that is going to cure mental problems or physical problems. It's going to be more prevention of those issues. And by prevention means that we need to bring other people, and we need to bring other concepts, transparency in public life, greater efforts to make justice work for everybody, reduce water, reduce waste, reuse, recycle. All these have taught us, have shown us in different societies that we can all benefit from them. We all have learned global lessons. Now we need to start applying them in our lives. Now, if politicians and the business community do not manage the standards that our societies require, I think that is back to us. In our professional, in our individual professional lives. The other players have no interest in change. Why should they? They're benefiting. You deal with humans. We need to reintroduce the capacity not set off the revolution. We need to remember that we are members of communities, and that our communities need to be rebuilt, not globalized. We communicate through our extensive families, again, as this has been mentioned by the high table here. We need to increase the number of barefoot doctors, members of the community, to have the skills to look after the most basic challenges. We need to introduce the number of people who have better education, who have better housing units, more decent water and sanitation. My second group of recommendations, for what it is worth, is that we need to find solutions not at the very top, but at the lower level, because small can be beautiful. Not always. I put it as a statement there, small is beautiful. Yes, very often, but not necessarily always the same. There has been a tendency to personalize issues. When Mr. Zuckerberg and his Facebook comes up and says, I decide the news, I will decide what you have got to read and what you don't, that is an affront to the thinking capacity of each of us. But we are allowing it, my friends, we are allowing them, because we use the blooming Facebook. Turn it off. Don't allow your children or grandchildren to play with the wretched things. When Mr. Trump says that Mexicans are all rapists and need to be deported, I mean, the bloke is banana, my friend. Some other word came to mind. The world may be run by big men, but it is lived by little people, by us. So let us get back our humanity. And this is where, it seems to me, again, we have this challenge. A very famous man in the UK, at least, Lord Rees, in 2003 said, mankind has only a 50-50 chance to survive the 21st century. My goodness, what a challenge to all of us. I have a grandson who is 1 year old. Last week was 1 year old. I would hope that he's not the last one of our kind. If we are not careful, globalization will mean not some form of liberation from barriers, but complete chaos. Thank you, Professor Stewart, for inviting me, and thank you, colleagues, for inviting me to be here and to speak to you. And I hope that you feel that you are ignorant, but at a higher level. Thank you very much.